Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
Now tuned into the greatest.
So when that bag come, I won't fumble. I'm just stacking on the low, but hey, I'm tired of being humble. Let me get to it. That motivation music. Get control of your life, don't let nobody else do it. Cause I'm not gonna have matching Ep.526 cruising. Feel like you winning on the ground.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. I appreciate you for tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like or you dislike, hit us up on the voicemail line, 219-413-9405. And of course, we'll play your take back on our next episode. Now, speaking of episodes, shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Get $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use the promo code TheRunPodcast. Now, this code can only be applied for first-time users on the mobile app or website. So, don't know about you, but you better go ahead and create that account. Go to one of these basketball games, or if you got it like that, go to one of these NFL games. Save yourself $20 off your ticket purchase. And speaking of NFL games, as you know, the NFL regular season is over now. So this means there's a lot of teams that's in the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that's not in the playoffs. My team, the Atlanta Falcons, happen to be out of the playoffs. They finished the season 8-9. They beat the Saints yesterday at noon. 19-7 for the season sweep over the New Orleans Saints. So, you love that if you're a Falcons fan, of course. And then, they also made a little history finishing out the season. The Atlanta Falcons 2025 Atlanta Falcons, as a matter of fact, they broke the franchise single record for sacks in a single season. James Pierce Jr., he helped clinch the final sack, making it 57 sacks, and the old record was 55. So this was huge for the Falcons, man. And, honestly, I'm just glad the Falcons were able to accomplish something this season. A historic defense in 2025, breaking the sack record, breaking the 55 mark, hitting 57, beat it by 2 sacks. Just love it, man. Love it. Obviously, that's not even the thing that made me most excited, though. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it all. The Falcons have fired Raheem Morris. They let that man go. They fired Raheem Morris. They fired GM Terry Fotnenot. They fired CEO Rich McKay. And now they're trying to figure out who's going to fill these pieces and who's going to go where and how many people. Apparently, we're adding new positions and all of these things. So for those who haven't been following all along and don't understand why this is so significant. So Raheem Morris has been the Falcons coach for 2 seasons now, and he has failed to get a winning season in both of those seasons. He initially got there as a head coach, and everyone knew, the whole fan base knew, the front office knew, the owner, everyone had to go to win now. That was why we traded the 2026 pick for James Pierce Jr., which turned out to be a great trade. In fact, shout out to Terry, which we'll explain in just a second. However, Raheem Morris continued to underperform year in and year out, and all throughout the season. The only time he started racking up wins was when it was way too late, when the games didn't really matter anymore, and the Falcons were already out of playoff contention. So, that this type of thing was on the way. It was coming, man. And, Falcons aren't trying to figure out, maybe we can win 3 to 4 years from now. They're trying to win right now with the roster that we have intact. So it's not a bad roster. Elite players are on this roster. Obviously, extremely talented defense, breaking franchise records, having outstanding years from our edge rushers that we drafted. Like, this is clearly a solid team on both ends of the ball. So Raheem Morris, he was gone. He was let go. GM Terry Fotnenot. I know a lot of people are kind of wondering, including myself, why we actually fired Terry Fotnenot. And I thought Terry, he kind of had a leash. I go back and forth with the GM Terry Fotnenot because, he wasn't necessarily awful. I know he missed on a couple of picks. And you can harp on, oh, well, Terry he missed this pick here. We had Caden Ellis. He drafted JD Bertrand, and he drafted some of these guys that didn't pan out. I know you can make that argument with Terry, but ultimately you got to look at what the GM did for us. Terry gave us one of the best draft class arguably ever in franchise history. Gave us James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, Xavier Watts. Literally changed our defense from last in sacks to first in sacks at one point in multiple weeks throughout this current season. So, I have nothing but thank yous for Terry and what he did. But the thing that really hurt him, outside of drafting Bijan Robinson, outside of drafting Drake London, outside of drafting Jalen Walker, Xavier Watts, James Pierce Jr., the thing that really hurt Terry Fotnenot, the GM, was the whole Kirk deal, man. Drafting Penix, signing Kirk to this big deal, and it just hurting us in the long run in terms of cap space. This is where the big error came in for. And honestly, looking back at it, it's a fireable offense. It's truly a fireable offense. And I liked what Terry has done all throughout his time there. I thought he did a pretty good job building this roster. Obviously, the quarterback thing has been, the biggest issue of, we haven't been able to really get that right of finding a quarterback, solidifying that issue. But I think it's even fair to say that although Terry has been great at drafting in the past, bringing us a lot of the stars we have on the roster today, this whole move with Kirk Cousins and Penix was kind of a win or bust or win or go home type of deal. If it didn't pan out, then you almost had to expect that Terry was going to get fired in this situation because it's such a risky move. And yes, it was risky. I thought it could have been beneficial, but I understand every reason why he also had to go along with Raheem Morris. But, I will say, if anything, for Terry Fotnenot, thank you for drafting the guys you did, for bringing us Bijan Robinson, bringing us Drake London, bringing us a lot of the linemen that we have in the defensive unit that we have now. So I hope he'll land on his feet. I'm sure he will. But again, I have nothing but thank yous for him. Falcons also fired CEO Rich McKay. Rich McKay is he's CEO, so he doesn't get a lot of flack unless you're really deep dive tapped in into what the Falcons is doing in the front office. Rich McKay, he was said to be the reason the Falcons hired multiple coaches such as Arthur Smith. Before him, we had Dan Quinn, and he was also a Rich McKay hire. Raheem Morris was also a Rich McKay hire. So a lot of people credit Rich McKay for the blame of picking the wrong guy year in and year out ever since he's been here, man. I know it's been a rough couple of times for the Falcons since 2017, really that one Super Bowl appearance. But outside of that, they haven't really hit on any head coach that they've had. And a lot of those hires were Rich McKay. So fans, myself included, were begging for Rich McKay to also get fired. And that was kind of the deal breaker there. We didn't know if we were really going to clear house. At least me, I didn't know if we were really going to clear house because Rich McKay has been there for so long. He was hired in 2011. So he's been there for a long time. Also, he takes care of Arthur Blanks' finances, and he does a lot of different things with Arthur Blanks' portfolio and his other investments outside of the Atlanta Falcons. So apparently he's still going to continue that type of stuff, but just nothing with the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm content with that. As long as the Falcons can continue to improve, bring in the right guy this time, then I think we're all right. Now, the interesting fact here is, George Beatles, he was promoted to CEO. Now, he was the former president. He still is president, but now he was just promoted to CEO. So he's going to be filling in that space there for the Atlanta Falcons. And the big news before we get to the hiring candidates of possible head coaches, Matt Ryan. This has been going on for some time. We've been saying how Matt Ryan is possibly going to join the Atlanta Falcons and how it's been a lot of rumors. These rumors are growing stronger and stronger. We're seeing a lot more sources, a lot more talk about Matt Ryan joining the Atlanta Falcons. I believe today he already interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons. But the position he's possibly going to join in as is the president of football operations. Now, this is a position that the Atlanta Falcons do not have already. So they're looking to add this position specifically for Matt Ryan. So I don't know why or how Matt Ryan wouldn't end up in the front office with the Atlanta Falcons. However, you have to consider after the interview with Matt Ryan, it said that he also wants to continue his job with CBS Sports. So he'll be doing a dual role of CBS Sports Sports and also president of football operations in the Atlanta Falcons front office. So kind of risky. Some people don't like it. Some people do. I'm kind of in the middle. I see both sides of it. To me, I just look at it as long as he can still devote his time of being in the front office and being able to operate his job and make sure everything is good and do his requirements of what he's supposed to do. I'm content with him in a dual role between CBS Sports and Atlanta Falcons front office. I'm content with that. Now, if it becomes a problem, then it's a different conversation. But a lot of reports are already saying that Matt Ryan has a huge voice in the front office, even though he wasn't in a position of authority or a position of power. So, there's some interesting things here. But Matt Ryan, I'm excited that he's possibly going to be joining. And, I've been joking around and I'm saying like, all right, well, Matt Ryan, he's back to save the Falcons again. He's back to take us to the Super Bowl and finish the job. I'm hoping it happens. And I just really need these guys to hit it right. And this brings me to my point of head coaches. Because Falcons head coach hires have not been good in the past. We've struggled. Raheem, I didn't really want him. Arthur Smith, so-so. Dan Quinn, so-so. Super Bowl appearance, a lovely, but also had a loaded staff. Had the guru Kyle Shanahan calling the offense. Also, you could argue he's the reason we don't have a Super Bowl right now. So all of these things. But to give you a list of the guys I like as head coach candidates for the Atlanta Falcons right now, it's a handful of guys. There's truthfully for me maybe 3 strong candidates for head coach candidates, but there's a couple of guys who are debatable. So the list of head coach candidates, hear me out. Head coach candidates for the Atlanta Falcons. Clint Kubiak. I would love Clint Kubiak to be the first one. So to start my head coach candidates for the Atlanta Falcons, I have Clint Kubiak as my number 1. Mike McCarthy is my number 2. Brian Flores is my number 3. Kevin Stefanski, I still don't even know if he should even be on a list, but we'll discuss that in a second. Mike Tomlin, if he gets fired by the Steelers, or possibly Matt LaFleur, if he gets fired by the Steelers. And I'll explain this, so hear me out. So starting with Clint Kubiak, this is a guy, man, I'm a fan of Clint Kubiak and what he's doing. I'm thriving with the Seattle Seahawks right now, man. He's got the Seahawks looking great offensively in just multiple aspects throughout that offense. His schemes are great. His designs are good. His offensive minded. I mean, he has Sam Darnold up to 14 wins. They're outscoring opponents. They're going toe to toe with opponents. They're dueling in every single game. And that Seahawks offense is a factor anytime you go against them. It helps that their defense is good too. And it reminds me of the Atlanta Falcons defense right now that is very solid. So that to me seems like a great situation. Also, a lot of people don't know, but Kirk Cousins was under Clint Kubiak at one point. Clint Kubiak was the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings all through 2019 through 2021. He was a quarterbacks coach and then became the offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. So him and Kirk Cousins already have some sort of dynamic together. They have some sort of chemistry where they can win ball games and play at a high level, because let's not forget, Kirk thrived in Minnesota at one point. Now, I'm happy with what he's doing, kind of reverting back to Seahawks. Currently, I'm sure he's grown since that stunt with the Minnesota Vikings, but he helped the Seahawks finish top 10 in passing this season. They're also top 10 in rushing yards per game and 3rd in points per game right now under Clint Kubiak with the Seattle Seahawks. So you add the factor of him having some prior experiences with a great offensive coordinator and a great offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco 49ers. He was the pass game coordinator in 2023. That was one of the years they went to the Super Bowl. They finished top 5 in multiple offensive categories during that time. Clint Kubiak has that experience as well. He coached with the Saints as an offensive coordinator for a brief stunt. Didn't really do much, however, still has the experience. All that he's doing with the Seahawks and the fact that he's been with Kirk Cousins before, man, I like Clint Kubiak as a solid head coach candidate, man. It's something about him and Kirk playing together and thriving in Minnesota. It's something about Clint Kubiak having good schemes with the Seahawks and Sam Darnold, being top 10 in multiple categories, being 3rd in points per game, and then also being under Kyle Shanahan at one point as a pass game coordinator. So I'm all for Clint Kubiak being the head coach. They interviewed him today, so it's possible that Falcons are moving quick right now. So it's possible something can happen and He was the first interview for the Atlanta Falcons. So I love that they have their eyes set on Clint Kubiak for the Atlanta Falcons. This is a lovely reassurance for me that at least they're going in the right direction. Another guy. So outside of Clint Kubiak, someone who I would love to be the head coach, you got to hear me out because I really think Mike McCarthy would be a great head coach option for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, look, man, Mike McCarthy, he has experience as a head coach in the NFL for 18 seasons, I believe it is. He's won a Super Bowl. He had a 61 win percentage in Green Bay after playing 13 seasons. He also helped them get to the Super Bowl in 2010. He took the Packers to the playoffs for 8 years straight. 8 years straight. Man, sounds lovely if he's the head coach of my organization. But mind you, he's thrived with the Packers on every level. Obviously, he had Aaron Rodgers there, and some could say he helped Aaron Rodgers develop into the quarterback that he is. And some say Aaron Rodgers couldn't win without him, and Mike McCarthy can't win without Aaron Rodgers. That debate is going to go on forever. However, I'm loving the win percentage that I see when he was in Green Bay, 61%. Looks lovely. He won a Super Bowl out of 13 seasons. I'll take it. 8 straight playoff wins. Hey, I'm good with it. 8 straight playoff appearances, I should say. And then you look forward, once he left the Green Bay Packers, he still thrived. And I'm trying to figure out, I even had to text one of my close friends who's a Cowboys fan, and I had to ask him, why did y'all fire Mike McCarthy again? Because when I'm looking at Mike McCarthy, I see 61 win percentage with the Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl in 2010, 8 straight playoff appearances with the Packers. And then he goes to the Cowboys. He has 5 straight seasons there, 58 win percentage, and he gets to the playoffs 3 years straight with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak has one of his best seasons ever under Mike McCarthy. So I was confused. I had to hit my guy up and ask him, why did y'all fire Mike McCarthy again? And because of these things that he's done, he understands what it takes to win in the NFL. He clearly is a proven winner in the NFL, and he has the experience. So I'm all for Mike McCarthy being the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I would actually love that, and he could arguably be my number one option for the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, because when he set out for Dak in that MVP race, I think it was, I don't remember the exact year, but that was amazing. Dak was playing at a very high level. He won Offensive Player of the Year, and it was tremendous from the Cowboys. So I was shocked. Out of his 5 seasons there, he had 3 straight playoff appearances. The first season was rough, and the last season was also a little rough where they didn't get in the playoffs. But ultimately, Mike McCarthy, man, this is a guy, he can definitely put the pieces to use and make something happen with this Falcons team. So I would love to see Mike McCarthy there, Super Bowl champion. I mean, a guy's a winner, 61 win percentage with the Packers, 58 win percentage with the Cowboys, overall 60% win percentage. I love it. I love every aspect. I want Mike McCarthy as my head coach. And if not him, maybe Clint Kubiak, who's also a little bit younger. But above all, these two guys definitely, I would love to see them in a Falcons hat on the sideline, calling plays, calling the defense, whatever you got to do. And I would love to keep Jeff Albridge too. That's a side note. I didn't even get to that, but I'll try to roll back onto that of keeping Jeff Albridge, the defensive coordinator now. But that's a separate conversation. So a couple more, head coach candidates that I want to throw around, and I don't want to spend too much time on each one of them, but hear me out. So the third option I have is Brian Flores, man. I think Brian Flores, I know he's a defensive guy, and I've said it multiple times that I want an offensive-minded head coach for this Atlanta Falcons team. But I really think Brian Flores didn't get a fair shot. He kind of got a raw deal in Miami as a head coach with Tua. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth drama between him and Tua Tagovailoa. He said Tua wasn't the guy for him, and Tua kind of blamed the head coach. A lot of people thought Tua was, but time has told us that maybe he was even right during that time. He has experience under Bill Belichick. He was the linebacker coach for the Patriots for multiple years when they were going to the Super Bowl, winning Super Bowls, even the one in 2017 that the Falcons lost. So he's continued to develop as a coach in the NFL since then, became a defensive coordinator with the Vikings and thrived, had this Vikings defense relevant since he's been there. It's always a factor when you go play in Minnesota or you're going to go play against Minnesota at home. So for these reasons, I really like Brian Flores as a head coach option. Again, defensive guy. I want offensive minded, but I think Brian Flores could truly change the culture there. In his final season with Miami, they weren't bad. This is kind of what did it for him. So in his final season in Miami, he won 8 of their last 9 games, but it was just an awful start to the season. They started 1-7, and this was a big factor that led to him getting fired. But ultimately, dominant he had some positive win seasons with the Miami Dolphins as well. So, I go back and forth about Brian Flores, but I would be a fool not to consider him as a potential head coaching option for the Atlanta Falcons. Truth be told, man, I think he definitely has a lot of potential here. So we'll see what happens. Brian Flores, not my favorite candidate, but definitely a good prospect in this whole hiring process of maybe getting certain guys and bringing these people here. But another one, and you guys got to help me on here. So I genuinely don't understand why this guy's an option. So hear me out. Kevin Stefanski. I don't know why Kevin Stefanski is an option here. I don't really get the hype around Kevin Stefanski of why the Falcons would want him as a head coach. So please tell me something I don't know of why he could potentially be a good head coach, because anything I've looked on him when I research, I know he got the 2-time Coach of the Year award, whatever, all of that, but I'm not really too high on him, and I don't understand why people are vouching for him, because genuinely, what did anybody see that makes Kevin Stefanski look like a desirable head coach for their organization? Like, I'm genuinely asking anybody who's seeing this video, who's watching right now on the live, who's listening to the pod, please let me know. Because, like, I look at what he's done with the Browns in his past stunt and everything that he's done with the Browns. The man has had he's had 1 winning season in the last 5 seasons with the Browns. So some people think he's the answer to the Atlanta Falcons head coach solution, and I just don't see it, because if he clearly can't fix a broken Browns team, what makes you think he can fix a broken Atlanta Falcons franchise? Like, I know, yeah, we got Bijan Robinson, yeah, we got Drake London, we got a solid defense, yeah, but the quarterback situation scares me severely. Like, I've seen poor management. I've seen just bad rotations. I don't know, man. I just haven't seen anything where it's convincing that Stefanski could be a good coach for the Atlanta Falcons. I haven't seen it, man. I'm a little worried about that, and I don't want the Falcons to have a losing coach. Stefanski has a 44% or a 44 win percentage in the NFL as a head coach. I don't want any part of that. He's a losing coach with the Browns. He's been to the playoffs twice, or winning season twice out of the 6 years he's been there, but he had 1 winning season in the last 5 years to correct that. So I just don't get the hype, and I'm genuinely curious what anybody sees in Stefanski as a potential head coach. So it does worry me a little bit, and I don't really know. I don't know, man. I'm not really too high on Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. The other guys here, so I did mention some other options, but we don't know for certain yet. So Mike Tomlin, I've said I want Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I would love to have Mike Tomlin as a head coach, regardless of the bad rep he gets with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's just time for a nasty divorce between those two. Like, Mike Tomlin could thrive somewhere else that's not the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers could probably thrive if they leave Mike Tomlin alone as well and just make that change. So I think it would be beneficial for both parties. Obviously, we know if the Falcons could somehow get Mike Tomlin, he's going to guarantee us a winning season. He knows his stuff. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been around the NFL for a long time. He gets quarterbacks in position. He makes quarterbacks look decent, even if they're bad. He makes quarterbacks look good, even if they're good. So I've seen Mike Tomlin go down a very rough path with a bad narrative, even though I don't know how you could flip 20 straight seasons or just about 20 straight seasons of a positive record into a bad narrative. However, I would love him in Atlanta because he could guarantee us a winning season. Guarantee it. So I take it. Another guy is Matt LaFleur. If the Packers were to fire him, he's currently the Packers head coach. I don't think they will, but just to entertain it just a little bit, if the Packers did fire Matt LaFleur, I would be content with us picking up Matt LaFleur as a head coach, mainly because I've seen his offensive schemes work. I've seen him whisper to quarterbacks, if you will, and I've seen him have that Packers offense look solid at times. Yes, they were rough at times. They had a lot of injuries, but nevertheless, they're still going to keep it a game. There was times it looked shaky too, so don't get me wrong, but I trust Matt LaFleur with being able to develop a quarterback, with being able to utilize his current quarterback and put them in a good situation to win ball games. I see what he did with Jordan Love. Obviously, he had some time under Aaron Rodgers. And then I also look at Malik Willis of what he did whenever Jordan Love was injured. So some of these things were really good. The run game looks good over in Green Bay. Whenever they're thriving offensively with the pass game too, they look pretty solid. But I wouldn't be mad at Matt LaFleur as a head coach too. And this kind of brings me to the wrap-up moment of, the coaching and the hiring cycle with the Falcons is Jeff Albridge, man. Jeff Albridge, defensive coordinator for the Falcons. He's the one guy. Jeff Albridge is the one guy I don't want to go for the Atlanta Falcons because he's had this defense thriving all season. Like, this man has really turned this defense around from trash from ashy to classy. I'll put it, that's the best way I can put it. Defensive coordinator Jeff Albridge needs to stay in Atlanta because he truly turned us from ashy to classy. We were bottom in sacks, bottom 5, dead last, if you will, in sacks. And then now, at multiple weeks in the NFL this past season, we were first in sacks. So I really want Jeff Albridge. I've seen him adjust throughout the game, and when things weren't working, I've seen him give players confidence in terms of Kobe White, Henderson, like a lot of guys who have struggled over the past few years, have turned into a different beast under Jeff Albridge. And then a lot of the guys who are already beasts turned into monsters under Jeff Albridge. So I would love to keep Jeff Albridge there, defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, man. I really don't want him to go. Whoever we bring in as a head coach, man. I know coaches have their favorite guys and all, but oh man, I really want to see Jeff Albridge stay with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator. Hit the road, dude. Hit the road, dude. Private property. Hit the road. Hit the road, dude. All right, look, man. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll jump into some more information. It's a lot of playoff games happening now. So playoffs is here. So we got the start of the playoffs happening Saturday, man. Some good playoff games. So we'll break down everybody who's in the playoffs and go over all of those matchups that we're anticipating and some of the matchups that I'm really looking forward to. And let's also review some of the games that decided who's in the playoffs. So we'll touch on all those things in just a sec, but don't go anywhere. I also have who's fired. A lot of coaches throughout the league have been fired, not just the Falcons. So we'll discuss some of those. There are some coaches and GMs who were fired from multiple teams. So we'll explain all of that in the news, but don't go anywhere. It is Black Monday. This is Black Monday, man. This is what happens. Coaches get fired, players get moved, GMs get fired. People lose their job on Black Monday if you ain't do your job during the season. So I'm just glad my Falcons were able to participate in that. So excited about that. But let's review all of the coaches that were fired, the GMs, all of these things, and the playoff teams that's here. So we'll discuss in just a sec. Don't go anywhere. It is halftime.
Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous, but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.